All right, welcome. Today, we're going to build a really powerful tool, step by step, that could totally change your financial journey. See, the whole goal here is to take these huge, kind of scary goals and just chop them down into small, manageable chunks that you can actually see and, really achieve.
You know that feeling, right? For so many of us, when we think about retirement, it's just this one massive, intimidating number. You see a video, you read an article, and bam, suddenly you're staring at a figure that just feels completely, totally out of reach. I mean, let's be real. Seeing a number like this, it can create a ton of anxiety. Your brain immediately goes, nope, I'm never going to get there. But the whole point of this explainer is to do the exact opposite. We want to relieve that anxiety and give you a super clear, actionable path forward.
So let's start by tackling that exact feeling. That feeling of being completely overwhelmed. It's like you're standing at the bottom of this giant financial mountain, looking up with absolutely no idea how to even start climbing.
And that's the whole point of the tool we're building. We're going to shift your focus away from that one scary finish line and instead break it down into a series of achievable milestones. We're going to make your progress totally visible, every single step of the way.
Okay, so if we're not just chasing that one giant number, then what is the alternative? Well, the answer is this really powerful concept called Coast FIRE. Now, this is a super flexible approach inside the whole FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early. The big idea is to let time and that magical thing called compound interest do all the heavy lifting for you. Basically, you invest enough early on, and then you get to just, coast to your goal.
And the process is surprisingly simple, really. It's basically 3 steps. First, you build up your investments to a specific target number for your age. Then, and this is the cool part, you can ease off the gas. You just need to cover your living expenses, and you let your investments just grow on their own, all the way to retirement. Okay, so before we can actually build our dashboard, we need to gather a few key ingredients. Think of these as the assumptions that are going to be the foundation for our entire spreadsheet.
So, we need to know where you are right now. And then we need to make some smart, educated guesses about the future. For our example, don't worry, we're going to use some pretty conservative numbers just to see how this all works in practice. Okay, to keep the math from getting crazy, we're going to focus on what's called the net return. So a 7% average market return, that's a pretty common assumption. But you always have to account for inflation, right? So we subtract an estimated 3% for that, and boom, we're left with a 4% real return per year. That's the number we'll use.
Next up, we have the safe withdrawal rate, or SWR for short. This is what helps us figure out that final retirement number. You've probably heard of the 4% rule. It's a common guideline. It just means you can safely pull out 4% of your portfolio each year in retirement. And that's where the 25 times rule comes from. Think about it. If your annual spending is 4% of your savings, that means your total nest egg needs to be 25 times your annual spending. Simple as that.
All right, we've got the concept down, we've got our numbers. Now for the fun part. Let's actually start building the spreadsheet that's going to bring all of this to life and give you that incredible clarity we've been talking about.
We're going to start with a super simple 4-column table. First column, age, that's your target age. Next, amount needed, that's your Coast FIRE number for that specific age. And then you have the last 2 columns, and these are probably the most important for tracking your progress. Percentage shows you just how close you are, and difference tells you exactly how much further you've got to go in dollars.
And listen, you do not need to be a math wizard to figure this out. The most complex part, calculating the amount needed based on all that compound growth stuff, is handled by free online tools. You just plug in your assumptions and they spit out the target numbers you need for your table. Easy.
Okay, let's run a quick scenario. Let's imagine you're 37 years old and you've got a portfolio of $850,000. Your big goal is to have an annual spend of $75,000 in retirement. So we pop that into a calculator and we see that to coast to retirement by age 40, you'd need about $1.67 million invested right now. But with your current $850K, check it out, you're already 51% of the way to that specific milestone. See how that works?
Okay, but this is where the real magic happens. A single scenario is useful, for sure, but the real aha moment, the game changer, is when we build out multiple scenarios and maybe add a little color so you can visualize your progress in an instant. Okay, just look at this. By creating different columns for different spending goals, let's say 75K, 60K, and 50K a year, you get this incredible amount of perspective.
all of a sudden you see that, yeah, maybe a 75K retirement is still a ways off, but wait, you're actually 93% of the way to a 50K retirement by age 45, and look at this, you've already hit the goal for a 50K retirement by age 50. How cool is that?
You see, this is the kind of tool that stops you from comparing yourself to some tech billionaire you see on Reddit. The only comparison that matters is you versus your own goals. And you might just find out that you are way, way closer than you think to a version of financial independence that actually works for you.
And suddenly, a big decision, like taking that vacation or buying a new car, it isn't just an expense that you feel guilty about. No, it's a choice you can weigh against clear, tangible goals. You can see exactly how it impacts your timeline, and then decide if it's worth it. Now that is real financial power. So at the end of the day, a simple tool like this gives you one thing: perspective. And with that perspective comes this powerful sense of control and of freedom. It transforms that giant, scary mountain into a series of hills that you can actually climb, one by one. So the only real question left is, once you have that financial clarity, what are you going to do with it?